I was certainly taught as a kid, you have to keep potatoes in a cold, dark place, cold, dry, dark place. And that was because if they got exposed to light, they turned green. They were poison. You can't eat them. They went bad. And that's what they say, oh, they're bad if you do that. Well, what does that mean? That means they're poisonous and they can kill you. And people actually still die from eating potatoes when they don't follow that. I mean, potatoes, right? But if they turn green, they can be deadly.
Wow.
And if they start growing a root, that can kill you.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so you have to cut the whole eye out or you just throw them out.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because they're bad. What does that bad mean? It means they're poisonous. They're deadly poisonous. They're already poisonous. But they're poisonous over decades as opposed to acutely poisonous. They'll kill you that day. Right? And they will if they get into that point. So, I just pointed out that fact that anyone can look up. And he was just like, oh, yeah, potatoes. Okay. And I was saying, you should peel these things because that's where the barrier protection, that's where most of these things are. And that's what we used to do. We used to peel potatoes always. And we used to vine ripen tomatoes, blanch them, take the skin off, and take the seeds out for hundreds of years. And then people were like, oh no, that's where all the nutrients are. Yeah, that's where all the poison is too.
If you ever went over someone's house and they had like potato mash or something like that, and
I just punch them.
And they had the skins in there still, you'd be like, what's wrong with you, man?
Well, but a lot of people do, right?
Yeah,
because
that's where the nutrients is, man.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's also where the poison is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. And whether or not the nutrients are in there, I mean, that's just something that someone's thrown out there. Maybe not though, because that's just something that people do this. They hear something, and because it fits their narrative, folklore. Well, because exactly, and because it fits their narrative and what they want to believe, they don't ask for any evidence of it. So there's no evidence either provided or asked for. So they just look at that and just go, oh, okay, great. On my podcast, on my YouTube channel, things like that. Like I put links for things. Like I want people to know where I'm getting this from. And maybe they look at it and they look like, yeah, you know what? I got a different story out of what you wrote there. Fine. That's great. It's up for interpretation. But that's what I got out of these sorts of things. Yes. And so I try to show my work. It's what you do in school. It's like, how'd you get the answer? Show your work. Don't just say like, oh, 86, you got it off of Jenny's paper. Write out how you got there so that people can check that and make sure you're not just guessing.
The common people aren't looking for standard information until things go wrong, though. You know
that too, yeah.
Then until you're unhealthy, you're looking for any kind of source of like savior. But like when you're just like, mashed potatoes, skin in, skin out, nobody's really giving a shit until it all goes to the fucking wolves. Yeah.
And so, they're just saying, oh, well, that's where the nutrients are. Okay, great. I have no reason not to believe that. But you never ask. They're like, oh, really? Where did you get that from? I always ask. And I always say, oh, well, what about when someone says this? Well, did they prove that was the case? Well, like, did they show any evidence? Did they show you a study? No, they just said it. Okay. Ask them where they're getting it from. Yeah. Even doctors and things like that, people say, well, my doctor says that, I have to do X, Y, and Z for these reasons. Like, okay, ask him what he's basing that on. Ask him what studies, ask him what research, ask him, can you show him? Yeah. And they can't because they don't, it's just, this stuff is made up, some of this stuff. And so, I was pointing that out about potatoes, and this guy, in order to counter me, trotted out this, I guess the only thing you could find was a study that said, if you're eating a standard, food pyramid diet, and your carbohydrates are coming from potatoes or they're coming from grains, what were they? Yeah, some sort of grain, like bread or something like that.
The best kind.
Something. Anyway, so another carb source, right? Yeah. And you're saying, well, this study showed that actually the group that was eating just the food pyramid stuff was eating potatoes instead of like, bread or something like that. Well, that one was better. I was like, yeah, okay. So that proves that potatoes don't have any solanine in them. You idiot. You know? I mean, like, okay, try eating those on their own and only eating those
without cooking them,
and compare that to someone who only eats meat and actually eats what they're supposed to eat, or maybe eating meat and potatoes instead of just meat. Yeah. That would show you some information that might be useful in this conversation. But like what you showed was that potatoes are better than the alternative carb source. I'm like, I don't care. That's not what we asked, and it's again with this hormetic thing, they don't ask for any information. They don't ask for any proof. They don't provide any either.
They just want to be made right. That's it.
And they just say, and it's just good enough, and it sounds good enough. It's like, oh, okay, hormesis. Okay, but again, there's a million different chemicals, and there's thousands in every different plant that we eat. Yeah. Which one of those are hormetic? At what level? At what dose? How do you know you're getting that dose? And how do you know how much is too much? So the idea of hormesis is too much is bad.
Yeah.
So you have this grace period. Now, not everything that's bad for you has a hormetic dose. There's some things that are only bad, So, you have to be very clear and distinct. And also, if you're talking about hormesis, you're talking about something that is potentially bad. And so over a certain amount, it is bad. And so you need to know what that level is. And so they're not doing that. They're just saying, yeah, just eat plants, whatever. Okay, that's not very helpful.
Yeah.
Because you're not saying which plants at what dose. Just eat this plant.
Variable plants, yeah.
Variable plants with variable amount of oxalates, variable amount of many different things. So if you're just eating a whole bunch of spinach, well, spinach is good for you. People eat more spinach, do better.
Yeah.
Okay, compared to what? Because people just eat more spinach than compared to a processed food diet. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how much spinach they're eating, right? Because you can get people that get serious oxalate poisoning from eating a whole bunch of spinach.
Yeah.
And Sally Norton was actually saying, she's like, I'd rather see someone on a processed food diet than a high oxalate diet.
Yeah.
Right? Because the high oxalates can destroy your life. It's worse than sugar. It's worse than these seed oils. To her, that's what she was saying. And she was saying that she would rather see someone on a processed food diet than a high oxalate plant-based diet, right? Because oxalates are that toxic.
Wow.
And she's speaking from experience. It literally ruined her life, and she was like debilitated and crippled throughout college and her 20s and 30s. I mean, she was literally like crippled, and she, was very, 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 very sick.
That's some scary shit, man.
Yeah, and she had a master's degree in nutrition from an Ivy League college.
What the fuck?
And so she was always worried about eating right and all that sort of thing, which is why she got this degree.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, this is what I want to study. I'm all into this. Just eating plant based, all blah 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 blah. And it was killing her. It was actually killing her.
Man.
And so
I feel like that's kind of like the standard thing that's happening at the moment is we get so much information on like these different things. Like just because it's a good color doesn't mean it's healthy.
No. And what does that mean? They say, well, we want a wide variety of eat the rainbow. It's like, okay, so eat Skittles, Taste the rainbow, right? So, what a silly thing to say, because there are a lot of different things that can cause plant to be yellow.
Yeah.
Do we need yellow? We just need the color yellow.
Yeah,
or do we need certain nutrients that sometimes display as yellow, but maybe don't in other plants? And maybe the yellow in this plant is not the same as the yellow in that plant, and that yellow is actually not something we need.
Why does the grade of photosynthesis have anything to do with it?
Yeah, and that's another one. I was so funny. There was a couple weeks where people were doing this, and it sort of died out because it was absurd. But people were asking me, it's like, okay, but if you don't eat plants, where do you get your chlorophyll from? Like, do you need chlorophyll?
It's chlorophyll.
Yeah, and it was just like, and they were like, well, but don't you need that? I'm like, says who?
Yeah,
and they're like,
have you ever
I don't know
what chlorophyll is, bro?
And so it's like, but how do you get chlorophyll? Like, you need chlorophyll. I'm like, but do you though?
Yeah.
It's like, who says we need chlorophyll and what's the evidence for that?
Yeah.
And then they go like, damn it, I don't know. And they go look around, they're like, I can't find anything. I'm like, yeah, you don't need chlorophyll.
We're not making endogenous chlorophyll, man.
No.
Yeah.
You absolutely don't need chlorophyll. Maybe there's some things in chlorophyll that might be good for you, but that's like with any cell.
Of course.
Right? There are things in living organisms that are good for other living organisms. That's why living organisms eat other living organisms.
Yeah.
Right? Not all things can get energy from the sun. They're heterotrophs. We're heterotrophs. All animals are heterotrophs. All animals have to feed on other life.
Yes.
Be that plant, animal, or so on. Right? And so, that's just the laws of nature. You have to eat something. And so you're going to get nutrients out of these things, but you're also going to get the bad with the good.
Yes.
And a lot of those good things are sequestered in ways that we can't access. They're not bioavailable. And, but there's nothing in plants that we have to have that we cannot get from meat. But there are a number of things in meat that we have to have that we cannot get from plants or fungus or any other form of life. We have to get it from meat.
Very well said.
And so to me, when we're talking about definitions of things, well, humans are omnivores. Well, in the sense that we can eat more plants relatively safely than other animals that are more sensitive, like felines and canines, who like felines really can't handle basically any plants. They will all kill them. They're all inedible, mostly inedible to felines. And canines, I mean, you give a dog chocolate, it dies, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's because that is toxic to a dog, or like nightshades, tomatoes, and things like that, or the tomato plant, the leaves especially, are very toxic to dogs. And there are a number of different plants that won't kill us, that will kill a dog, that will kill a cat, right?
So the argument is like, just because we can,
right,
doesn't mean it's optimal.
That's it. And that's exactly where I'm coming from, is the optimization, right? And that's, again, comes back to the point that there are no two animals of the same species, no two members of the same species that have different optimal diets. Now, there are different members of the same species, like in humans, that are better or less equipped to eat suboptimal food. So like people of European descent, like yourself and myself, we do better with grains and cultivated plants and crops than the native Australians, than the Native Americans, and even sub-Saharan Africans, things like that. They didn't have cultivation of crops as long as other people.
Even exposure to alcohol is different.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I've heard of that.
And so, that's going to be a difference. But those are all suboptimal things. Those are all survival foods, and maybe that gives an advantage. You're stuck in a castle and you're being besieged for 3 years and you can't grow food, but you have buttload of grain in the stores, and you're just, okay, we survived. You can survive on it. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you're living optimally. And that would give us a survival advantage. Absolutely. And like, a big cat, like a lion or something like that, if it doesn't get a kill, it's going to die.
Yeah. It ain't eating the grain in the castle.
But we know what we can eat.
Yeah.
And so we can eat other things as well. So we don't get a kill, we can still survive. And that obviously is a survival advantage, but that does not mean that's optimal.
Yes.
And so if you say, oh, we're omnivores because we can eat these things, okay, well, we can eat a lot of things that we definitely don't need. We can get essential nutrients and minerals and vitamins like zinc, copper, iron, and magnesium from eating dirt, right? And like pregnant women who are like so anemic or so iron deficient, probably because they're on a plant-based diet, they go out and they get what's called pica, which is they just eat things that are not food. And there's they'll eat dirt, and your dirt just tastes like they have to eat. They just feel compelled to eat dirt, and they eat it compulsively. And so, that's not food. Just because we can get nutrients out of dirt and we get, calories, you have to have calories, right? So you get those from a can of Coca-Cola, right? So we can eat dirt and Coca-Cola and take a multivitamin. That's not food, right?
Really? It was like my diet for the last 3 years.
And so, but that's the thing, so just because we can extract nutrients out of dirt does not make us dirtivores, right? And so, I just
women by that now.
And so I think it just depends on your definition of terms. To me, an omnivore means that you either not only just you can eat these things, because cats can eat some grains and things like that. Dogs can eat some of these plant-based crap, and that's what's in the kibble, and that's what's making them more sick and dying younger. Same with cats. But just because they can do that does not make them omnivores. Now, cats can do that, but they're still termed obligate carnivores because there are very few plants that they can eat safely. Yeah. And they really do need to eat meat, and they need to get those nutrients from meat. Well, I would consider us in the same category because, what I think of it as an actual obligate omnivore is something who has to eat some plants because there's nutrients they have to get from plants, and they have to eat meat because there's nutrients in meat they have to get. So they have to eat both, or they can get equal nutrition from either. We do not fit in either of those two categories. And so if you're thinking of a strict definition of what an omnivore is, or what an obligate omnivore is, someone who has to eat both or can eat both, you have to be very careful with those definitions. And so I think because you have to eat meat, you can't get away from it. You have to eat meat. There are nutrients there that you have to have.
Essential.
And there's nothing in plants that you have to have that you can't already get from meat.
Yes.
We are obligated to eat meat. We don't do well on plants. We're not optimized on plants. So I think that makes us obligate carnivores.
Yes.
Right. And so, that's just my opinion on it anyway.
Dude, that was a lot of information.
Sorry.
It was really, really good. I wholeheartedly agree that when it came down to me doing the carnivore diet, the benefits definitely outweighed me going back to a regular diet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was thinking about how my body reacted after going back onto a regular diet, it was not worth it.
Right.
It was worth staying on the carnivore. Now, let me just tell you, I didn't finish what happened.
Yeah. Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.
So they put me on immunosuppressants.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
To stop my corticosteroids, to stop my immune system attacking itself. It wasn't that.
Okay.
It wasn't that. They missed an infection.
Ah, dude, and they gave you an immunosuppressant.
Yes.
Fun. So
So my health just went phew.
Jesus.
And then I ended up getting rushed into the hospital for surgery like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, dude.
No, it's good. It's good because I was like, I fucking told you.
Yeah.
And like I did what you said to do. Like, ask your doctor why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And I did, and he couldn't give me an answer. And I was like, I feel like I couldn't eat anything but bone broth. Like, I literally was reacting to everything. Like, my stomach would feel bad just on steak. I think it was because of that reactive thing that you were talking about. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And then when I got rushed into the hospital for the infection, and that gets cleared out, I'm good again. I don't react to anything. But now I'm going back to carnivore.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to.
Well, you know, I'm really sorry that happened. I mean, that's a big miss. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. I was going to say, with the Crohn's issues, putting people on prednisolone, like these corticosteroids.
That's what I'm on, yeah.
There was a study that actually looked at putting people with Crohn's disease on, if people don't know, that's an inflammatory bowel disease that affects any part of the intestinal or the alimentary tract from the lips down to the anus, and it causes huge ulcerations and damage, and it's very painful and very uncomfortable and can cause other sort of issues around the body. And some people can have bloody diarrhea 20-30 times a day, and it's really nasty. And they get
agree.
Yeah. and they can get it's very horrible to deal with. And there was a study that looked at putting people on elemental diet, which is just pure nutrients and nothing else, and versus prednisolone, putting them on these corticosteroids. In America, we use prednisone, same sort of action. And they found that the people on an elemental diet, just getting the nutrients, that got them into remission faster and better than the prednisolone or prednisone, right? So just eliminating out this crap in your diet was better than the steroids.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that mean? That means there's something in that food that's causing that, right? That's kicking that off. There was another study, it was a controlled trial that looked at people just eliminating carbohydrates and fiber from their diet, again with Crohn's disease. And they found that the group that took away fiber and carbohydrates, so a ketogenic diet with no fiber, that they stayed in remission on average 51 months. Right? So over 4 years.
Damn, man.
Without medications.
Shit.
And the group that didn't remove carbohydrates and fiber stayed in remission on average 0 months.
Wow.
Big difference, right? So, what is that saying? That's saying that something in the carbs and the fiber, maybe one of each or both, or one of them or both, that is causing this to get worse, right? So it's precipitating this autoimmune attack on your body. And, people talk about, fiber's so good for you. Ask anyone with Crohn's or ulcerative colitis what fiber does to them. It absolutely tears them up. Exactly. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
In fact, the only thing that we found, there was a large study with over 2,000 patients, did colonoscopies on all these patients and diagnosed diverticular disease. So it's outpouching failure of the distal colon. And this can become infected, very, very serious. You can get that resected, have big problems. People die from this. And they found the only things that correlated with higher levels of diverticulosis were, first of all, age, which we always know. In medical school, you're taught after the age of 50, your age is the percent likelihood that you'll get diverticulosis, right? So 50 is 50%, 85 is 85%.
Yeah.
And so, but they found that age aside, the only things that correlated with your risk of getting diverticulosis was higher fiber intake and more bowel motions a week. So namely more than 2 bowel motions a day, or really more than 15 bowel motions a week.
Wow.
So averaging more than 2 a day, right? Constipation was not one of them.
Really?
Meat was not one of them. Fat was not one of them.
Jesus.
Right? Only fiber and more increased bowel motions a day, more than 15 per week. And they were actually strongly correlated with them. And so, saying that, well, fiber's so good for your gut. Like, based on what? Because based on the actual studies with actual people and actual patients and actual outcomes, it's worse. Yeah. Right? You're getting diverticulosis, you're getting Crohn's, you're kicking off ulcerative colitis. There was an interventional trial, I think it's really the only one that they've done with fiber, only looking at fiber as a specific variable. They had 4 groups. All these people were symptomatic. They had gut GI issues, stomach upset, pain, gas, bloating, things like that. So they were already symptomatic.
Right.
So they took all these people. They were all eating a certain amount of fiber, and they said, okay, we'll split you up into 4 groups. One will, just be the control group. You just keep eating exactly what you're eating, keep eating the same amount of fiber that you're eating. And then one group increase the amount of fiber that you're eating. One group decrease the amount of fiber that you're eating. One group eliminate the fiber, right? Small study, about like 60 some patients. They found the exact opposite of what you'd expect from these people pushing fiber. And
as you can imagine.
And so the people that ate more fiber actually got worse. People who stayed the same. People who ate less fiber got better. People who eliminated fiber completely resolved their symptoms. Every one of them, right? And and then you have the Crohn's patients. You eat fiber, you get worse. Yes. You eliminate fiber, you stay in remission, and removing carbohydrates as well. So some people will argue, well, that's you're changing 2 variables there. You don't know which variable is which. Fair enough, but it's down to 2 variables, and quite a lot of carbohydrates come with fiber.
Do you know what the first thing they offered me after they gave me the diagnosis in the hospital?
What?
Sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, we have whole grain.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Man.
And did they talk to you about resting the bowel?
No. They gave me a Dr. AB diet, which was it was like bread, rice. It's just pretty much a list of grains to eat. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't think this would help me. So I just jumped online and did some like formidable studies on like bone broth and things that like most people don't react to. Yeah. And kind of.
What's funny though, because when I was on my general surgery rotations, like it was we put people on a low residue diet all the time. Low residue, what does that mean? That means something that's not causing a lot of things to have to be excreted, right? So fiber is number 1 on that, because you cannot break it down. You cannot get nutrition from it. It's coming out. You put it in your mouth, it's coming out your ass. Like that's it. That's what's happening.
Usually
next.
The same weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you don't want that. You want to rest the bowel. You don't want the bowel to work so hard. You don't want a bunch of stuff coming through and having to move it and peristalsis it through. You don't want that. And so they put the people on a low to no fiber diet in order to rest the bowel. But I thought fiber was good for you. It's supposed to benefit the bowel, right? So wouldn't that be helpful? Wouldn't that be like, hey, you have a bowel issue, you need to eat a lot of fiber because fiber is really good for your gut. It's going to help your gut heal.
Out.
Yeah, and it helps you. It's good for you, but it's not actually. No. So when we actually have a problem, the medical community actually well understands the fact that fiber is actually contraindicated. Wow. And then so you take people off fiber, and then as soon as they're better, like, okay, get on a high fiber diet. Wait. What? Like why?
Let's just reverse all the stuff that you've just been through.
Every single animal on Earth, they know how much to eat and they know when to stop. And I've never seen a fat giraffe. I've never seen a fat lion. I've never seen a fat zebra. People say, oh, well, that's because they're running out in the wild all the day. Not in the zoo.
Yeah, true.
They live in a box the size of this room. This is the definition of a sedentary lifestyle. And yet they're ripped. They look like they're on steroids, right? Why is that? Because they're eating what they're supposed to eat.